Hi, everybody. My name is Janique. I go by Jan.
Hi, I'm Diane. Thank you for joining us on our first video. So the first question is, what does the name Happy Core mean?
Why don't you take this one?
Okay, so this is a fun one. So when we're coming up with the name, we're trying to convey a sense of obviously happiness, and mental health oftentimes is talked about in like a sad way, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Similarly with physical health can be either really bad or really good or neutral. We wanted something that people could come with and be approachable. So we want people who come to our platform to find happiness within themselves, within their core. So Happy Core, that's what that means.
Yeah, that was a pretty good summary. But yes, Happy Core, we wanted the name to exude happiness, even though we understand that with mental health, that's not always the case. But we want that whenever we engage with anyone that comes in contact with our brand, they leave feeling happy. So and of course, like happiness comes from within yourself. So that's where the name Happy Core comes from. So
okay, so the next question, Jen, you can take this one.
Okay.
This is, what made you start Happy Core?
Whew, that is a loaded question. Okay, so what made us start Happy Core? This is not a one person thing, ma'am.
Right.
Okay, so what made us start Happy Core? So what made me start Happy Core essentially came from some of the struggles that I've had to deal with and some of the challenges that I've faced as it relates to mental health. So I've had struggles with depression and anxiety, and I always had trouble finding the right resources that could cater to my needs. So when I started Happy Core, I wanted a place where Black women could come together and figure out and get and have access to those resources that I didn't have or had a hard time getting access to. Getting any kind of mental care can get pretty expensive. I believe, Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the average cost for care is about $75 to $150, and that's on average, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So looking at that, and that's not something that a lot of people can easily afford. So creating Happy Core, I wanted to create a place where women can come, Black women especially, because I want to cater to this population, is Black women can come to Happy Core and get the services they need without having to worry about the financial barriers that typically accompany mental health. So that's in a nutshell why this all started.
Okay, so for me, I have dealt English. I have dealt.
Hey guys, English is not her first language.
I'm not from here.
I kid.
No, but like I have been dealing with anxiety for a long time. I remember being 9 and dealing with anxiety and not really being able to articulate what I was feeling and not having the language and the community to deal with that, on top of the financial barriers that exist, as well as the stigma. Yep. So when Jen was like, I'm interested in starting this project, and I was like, well,
you were like, yeah, isn't she like a genius? All right, just kidding.
No, but I was more like this is something that I'm kind of doing for my 9-year-old self that had anxiety and didn't have the tools, and I'm really passionate about getting other Black girls the opportunity to deal with what they deal with.
Yeah, so. I would agree.
Okay,
next. All right, what's the next question? Make it a good one.
Okay. So, this is a good one. I'm nervous about telling my friends about my mental health struggles. What is the best way to start this conversation?
Oh.
Okay. So I'm a really private person, but with the people I decide to talk with, I just go ahead and say it. I understand that mental health is particularly sensitive. So for me, what I would do is, you could have coffee if you want. I love coffee. And just describe, first of all, if you know what the start of the problem is, describe what triggered you, what triggered the situation, and hopefully you have a support system around you that's willing to have the conversation. So my method would be just to dive in. That's it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. So, and you touch on something that's really, really key, and that's making sure that you have the right support system around you. Because again, right, and this is also one of the reasons why Happy Core exists, is to eliminate a lot of the stigmas that comes along with, struggling with mental health. And I think having someone or people in your corner that can really listen. 'Cause I think the key word here, especially, and this message also going out to anyone who has a friend that wants to have a conversation about this or whatever. I think the key here is having people around that can listen, because I think a lot of the time with people who have these mental health struggles, and I'll speak from my perspective, right? Just struggling with depression and anxiety. I think it's something that we don't want to burden our friends. We don't want to burden our family. So a lot of the time we do keep it in. So I've been super, super, super thankful and lucky that I have friends and family who are very supportive when I'm going through times that are challenging, and they're able to just listen and just hear me out, and just be an ear and a shoulder for me to cry on if I need that. So I think that's very important.
Listening is very important, but let's change the perspective and let's talk from the person who is going to be the listener here, right?
Yeah.
What should you be doing as a listener? Oftentimes, if I'm dealing with my anxiety, I can come across like I have the worst attitude. And I need for that person to understand that. I need for that person to recognize,
be compassionate and empathetic. Right. Yeah.
And so being a good listener, part of that is understanding that you're not necessarily going to understand every single thing that person is going
through. Or even anything at all. So I keep cutting you off.
But it might make zero sense to you. But the point is not for you to necessarily get it. The point is for you to be there, to be, like you said, that ear.
Yeah.
And I think that's essential.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that this is someone's question. You mentioned that you've dealt with depression and anxiety over the years. Okay. What are some of your coping mechanisms?
Oh, one thing before I answer that question, I actually want to say that it took me a long time to get to a point where I could develop what I would call healthy coping mechanisms. They're coping mechanism. Ooh, am I struggling with English today? Coping mechanism.
There you go.
Can sometimes have like a negative connotation, right? So I'm lucky and I'm thankful that I've been able to find a coping mechanism that is healthy and it's keeping me sane, and that is exercise. I cannot say, because I think that might be a misconception for people who know me, that I like to exercise. I don't. But it gets me to a place where I think one of the things that people who struggle with anxiety, and again, speaking from just my perspective, is just feeling like you don't have a sense of control over what's going on in your life, right? So I think being able to exercise and work out gives me that sense of control. And endorphins, I mean, this is scientifically proven. Endorphins boost your mood. They make you happy. So in the moment, or even before I go to work out, I don't necessarily I'm not like, yeah, let's go work out. Like, I'm not like, I'm not feeling that way. But once I get in the gym, it's like I'm in my own world. I have control over what's going on around me. So it's great. So I try to work out 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah, that's my coping mechanism.
Okay,
so it's yours though.
Okay, yeah. So let's dive into what I do. So I love to read, and reading is almost meditative for me.
Yeah.
So that's something I like to start my day off with, and I try to end my day off with as well. I also recently took up journaling free.
Okay. Oh my gosh, journaling is amazing. And I'm obsessed with buying new journals every time I go to like TJ Maxx or something. Like, it's such a great outlet. Okay,
it's a couple dollars. So I love reading. I love journaling. 2 years ago, I started yoga. I love yoga. Yoga, if anything, sometimes you need your membership, but you can do yoga at home. And I think that the main thing that I learned from yoga is finding that my thoughts, I can't control them, but I can control which thoughts I decide to
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got some more. So another person, before I answer this question, before I say the question, I'm going to point out that my sister and I are not mental health professionals.
Oh, yes, we are not professionals at all. We are speaking primarily from our experiences. So
yeah,
please do not take this as gospel, because it is not.
yeah. So again,
Okay.
just take it with a grain of salt. Um, so another question that we got was, how do I know I have a mental health illness, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, right, I think it was one of those things where, again, there are a lot of stigmas associated with anything related to mental health. So for me, it was really hard for me to, I guess, accept the fact that I may be struggling with something.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I started noticing was my mood changes. My mood would change a lot. I lost a lot of weight. And then a huge, I guess, huge indicator for me was when I just couldn't sleep at night, like crazy heart palpitations, constant like worrying about stuff. Sometimes I would just cry for no reason. I would just cry for hours for no reason. I know I've called you before in one of those situations, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong, but this is where I'm at, and I just need to talk. And again, it's always great to have a good support system, because what you just listened. Like, you didn't really say much. I remember that call really, really well. Yeah. And you didn't say too much. It's just like a matter of, okay, she's in this space, let me just listen to her. So those were some of the things that I started noticing in myself. And I'm like, okay, maybe maybe I need to talk to someone. So those were kind of the first indicators for me. I guess the whole diagnosis thing still scares a lot of people. And I know it scared me in the beginning, because I'm like, oh man, okay, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to talk about my problems, my issues, and I'm going to leave here with like a label on my forehead, right? And I think that was one of the things that I was concerned about. But as I've grown in this kind of space and on this, gosh, I'm going to say it, journey to wellness, it's something that I honestly embrace. Like, if someone was to ask me like, hey, what are you struggling with? I will tell you immediately, this is what, I struggle with, I every now and then, and I'll talk to that person. But I think one of the biggest barriers for me as well was trying to avoid a label. Like, I didn't want to be labeled as someone who has this, or they have that, or has been clinically diagnosed with this. So that was another thing too that I was like scared of. But anyway.
So yeah, that's huge. So to summarize, because we said a lot, for me, right, I think you're in agreement that a mental health illness, or you know that you're not right if like you're getting your day interrupted. If you can't function without having hiccups, then we should go get it checked out.
Yep.
Another question that we got is, how do I handle having a mental illness?
How do you handle it? Well, for me, right, I think it's more of educating yourself about it and embracing that as something that you can work towards, right? Not necessarily work toward, but you can work to feel better. I think one of the first thing is just accepting what the situation is, because if you don't, we all know that if you don't accept something, you can't change it, right? So I think it's just a matter of just saying, okay, this is where I am right now, and what can I do to get to a better place? So did I answer the question?
I think you did.
Okay.
So another good question. So I'm trying to like group these questions into like categories of related questions.
Look at you, organized.
Thanks. So the next question is, what are the resources or tools that I can use if I have a mental health illness? Can I take this one?
Of course.
Yay. I'm a public health major. So thank you. And some of the things that I learn about are access to healthcare. And a lot of times we don't know where to go to get the care that we need. How do we find therapists, counselors, psychiatrists that can can speak to our needs, right?
Yes,
That's a
who are
huge
culturally competent. That is a huge thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So first of all, that this harkens back to our first question. Why are we doing this? We
Yep.
want to be the resource, okay? We want it to be that when you come to Happy Core, you know that you're gonna find a culturally competent therapist, counselor
Absolutely.
that's within your budget. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard out here. So to answer that question, you can talk to your PCP, your primary care physician. You can come to Happy Core because we have therapists now. Hey, also the internet. Okay. When I say
No,
that,
no, but
I mean,
let's be careful though with that one
I
because
was gonna
Google can
say,
tell you a lot of things. Because I
I
know Google
know
has told me a lot of things that were not true. So
the internet's a great thing because there's so much information out there that you can end up not feeling alone. You can realize that your anxiety, your depression, or whatever it is that you're going through, you are most likely not the only one going through it. And for me, that's comforting. So
yep.
don't go out here and listen to everything that everybody's saying, but understand that there are people out there that understand kind of where you're at.
Right.
So
And I think, like you mentioned, right, I think a great first step is, typically your primary care doctor, because they can tell you and point you to resources that are trustworthy. So I think that wasn't the route that I took. I just went to Dr. Google, and luckily for me, I found the right resources that pointed me to, a great therapist. And that's where I started my journey. But just because there's so much information out there that sometimes is not accurate, I think starting with your doctor, especially if you have that relationship with your doctor as well, I think that's a great place to start. If you have friends that can help you through this, if you have friends that are supportive, because you never know what people know, right? You never know what your friend may have gone through and not told you. You never know who they know. So, but just be careful about the resources that you seek to get information from.
Another question that we got, which I think is super important to understand who we are, is why are we focusing on Black women and girls?
That's a fantastic question.
We are focusing on Black women and girls. Number one, because that is the experience that we have. I'm a Black woman. I have been a Black girl. I know that as Black women, we carry so much. And I feel that as a Black woman, even though we carry so much, I don't feel like a lot of people are caring for us. And I also know that Black women have these incredibly wide health disparities that affect us, and so little resources available to address it. Okie dokie, second to last one here. So this one says, why do you think a lot of people in the African community are silent about mental health issues despite the alarming suicide rates?
So I think, again, I'm going to speak from my experience because I am not obviously, I'm not sure why I said that.
It's not obvious.
But I am a Cameroonian woman, so obviously that makes me African. So I have perspective on this. So
237, baby. Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Wow. Okay. See, this is what I'm saying. You're gonna see a lot of this weirdness, But let's.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, what was the question again? Oh, why mental health issues silent in the African community? Well, so I'll start with this, right? I think we're doing a much better job from where we started, which was I would say at ground zero. I think we're doing a much better job about trying to get the conversation started. I think we have a much longer way to go. I think, excuse me, I think the silence is there because we don't grow up, and our parents didn't grow up in an environment where that's a conversation that's common. There are a lot of misconceptions, among people in our community about what is even the definition of mental health. Like, what does that even mean? Because I know I was to have a conversation with someone who's, a generation older than myself, right? That some of the things that I would say may not resonate because, again, that's not the environment that they were raised in. So I think there's the shame attached to it. And then there's also the history where we are so deeply rooted in our faith where
Mhm.
we rely a lot on the church and just faith in general to get us through a lot of difficult times in our lives. So that also might play into it because I know for a fact I've heard, okay, go pray to God and and he'll help you through whatever you're going through. So I think our people rely a lot on religion to get us through our struggles. And then there's a huge stigma in the African community that it's going to take a while to break, but that's why we're here. So
can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the conversation around anything is shaped around the language that exists, right?
Okay.
And I know that, like, in Pidgin, which if you're West African, you know.
Oh, please don't try. Please don't try.
I'm not going to.
We know.
We're not gonna.
We know you can't. Don't do it.
If you know, you know. If you know, but if you don't, hi, we're West African. But anyway.
We're West African and she's the one who can't speak Pidgin, but let's move on.
I understand it. That's not the point. The point is I understand.
50% doesn't count.
Okay, whatever. The point is, what is the word for mental health? Jen, chime in.
You know what? Oh, actually, I do know the word, and I don't want to say it because
it's Chris, right?
It is, right? And that's very offensive. But that's the perception that we have of it.
Right. And what does Chris mean? Chris means crazy.
Yeah.
It means crazy. So that means that if you are suffering from a mental health condition
of any kind whatsoever,
you're crazy.
Yeah. But that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
That could be depression, that could be schizophrenia, that could be PTSD.
It could be anything.
Anything, and you're crazy. And so how do you begin to have a conversation with people if you don't have the language to talk about it? Because in my opinion, the first step to healing is naming, and we have no for depression. Yes! So that's how I feel. That might be why.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point that you made. I didn't even think about that, to be honest. I'm like, wow, I've actually never thought about what word can be attributed to mental health in Pidgin, because I mean that's what I speak. So and I wonder what the word is in other languages, in the African continent as a whole.
Yeah, like
and we're not saying this by saying that every African country, every African community is this way, but as a general consensus, there's still a lot of these issues that exist that we need to break. So
if you're from any like African nation, drop down what the name is for any mental health illness that you are aware of.
Yeah, put it in the comments because I'm curious. I want to know.
We are curious. Okay, so the last question is, this person asked that how do you feel, or do you feel that as a Black woman dating a different race makes you less Black?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Jen. With all your years of expertise, go ahead.
So I don't have any direct experience with that, right? Mm-hmm. However, I don't think dating outside of your race makes you less Black. First of all, what does less Black even mean? Because dating out of your race, does that strip you of your skin color? No. Does that strip you of your culture? No. I think it's an opportunity where two people can come together. One, I think the most important thing here is the love and respect between both of those individuals, right? Whatever you look like, that's no. So the whole the idea of being less Black because you're dating someone out of your race, I don't believe that's valid. I think it's a great opportunity where two people who, again, love and respect themselves can come together. You can share your culture, but it doesn't take away from who you are. That's my 2 cents on it.
So I have a little bit of experience here. I'm in an interracial relationship, so I do not obviously believe that me dating someone who is non-Black makes me less Black, because I am not attached to him at the
hip. Are you still not eating jollof rice?
I am still eating jollof rice. So what I was gonna say is I'm not attached to my partner. Okay, so when I leave the room, The
Yep.
racists are still going to see me as a Black woman, and they're going
Exactly.
to treat me accordingly.
Yep.
They're not going to be like, oh, who's your partner? You know, are they white? Are they Asian? Like, who are they?
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
not like you magically transform into whatever your partner is when you're in the room. You know what I mean? So like, yeah.
So the answer is no, ma'am. I do not believe that you dating a non-Black person makes you less Black.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I want to take the opportunity to thank everyone. We will be having these kinds of discussions periodically, along with our series that we will release via YouTube and Instagram TV. But again, just thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions that you want to ask, by all means, send us a DM on our account at My Happy Core on Instagram, and we will get back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you guys so much for the outpour. All of this just makes us want to do more, and we're hopefully going to do more Ask Us Anything videos. But definitely we're going to be doing more videos that talk about mental health, either directly or indirectly. So please stick around for that. Again, thank you so much.
Yes. Oh, and our website is coming soon. So
yes.
We will be launching our website within the next 2 weeks. And at that point, you will be able to, if there's anybody that you know, whether it's you or if you or anybody you know needs assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Even now, send us an email, info@myhappycore.com. Or once the website launches, there will be an area where you can submit your application. We will give you more information about how you can go about getting help. But please, if there's anybody you know that could use this service, do not hesitate to pass on the information. And on that note, we are signing off, baby.